Okay, welcome to a new episode of Nate's MMA Corner. I'm Nate, and if you watch my show, you're in my corner. Today's episode is a post-fight show for UFC Fight Night. Hendricks Hendricks versus Thompson. Johnny Big Rig Hendricks versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Welterweight main event. Yeah, it's a post-fight show, the main card, so let's get started. Yeah, the main event was a 5-round main event, welterweight clash of top contenders, both ranked in the top 10 of the welterweight division in the UFC, with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Johnny Big Rig Hendricks. Yeah, a lot of the experts, including myself, not necessarily calling myself an expert per se, I mean, whatever you want to call me, picked Hendricks to win this because of his wrestling and his heavy left hand. However, that was not the case, and we didn't even need 5 rounds. It was first round, 3 minutes and 31 seconds into the first round. It was TKO punches, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson with victory. Coming into this fight, Stephen was ranked number 8 and Johnny was ranked number 2. So Stephen goes up the rankings quite a bit. Depending on what rankings you look at, that definitely should put him in the top 5. Yeah, wow, amazing fight. I'm glad Stephen won this fight. I was rooting for him, but my pick was Hendricks. I like Hendricks too, don't get me wrong, but I want to see a flashy striker that finishes fights, fight for a belt, be champion, and you know, I'm tired of these decision fests in welterweight division. You know, we had our last title fight in this weight class be a decision, and then we had the first and second Lawler and Hendricks fights be decisions, and the McDonald and Lawler fight almost went to a decision. So, yeah, this fight having a quick first round finish is pretty much giving hope to fans such as myself that, you know, there's hope in this weight class right now, that we can see finishes rather than leave it to the judges and have a big debate on who we think should win the fight. Yeah, then, yeah, that sums up this main event. Then in the co-main event, we have a heavyweight clash with Roy Nelson and Jared Rochelle. This fight, you know, I went back and forth, and that the tail end of my fantasy picks, I picked Jared Rochelle because I felt he was going to win by decision. Well, Roy Nelson won the decision, and this was, yeah, this wasn't a flashy fight at all. This was kind of back and forth. You know, you can almost debate. Well, I guess there's no big debate. I mean, you know, Roy Nelson narrowly won this fight. No, I don't think anyone could really argue, but I mean, it wasn't so dominant. Like, oh wow, he clearly won every round so dominantly. It's like, Roy Nelson kept him at bay and kept Jared Rochelle having to run around and avoid that overhand right. And Jared Rochelle was smart enough to avoid that overhand right of Nelson. And but then Jared Rochelle was not. He was not engaging and trying to clinch up and land some uppercuts. I think that's what he needed to do in this fight. I think had he tried for more of that rather than trying to box with him or wrestle with him, I think he should have looked to more dirty boxing, get in the clinch, and land some uppercuts in the clinch. I think that would have been a nicer game plan for Jared Rochelle. But yeah, nonetheless, it was 2 30-27s and 1 29-28 in favor of Roy Big Country Nelson. So he wins that, and this was pretty much a stand-up war. Pretty much hands being thrown, not a lot of kicks, and yeah, it was a decent fight. It wasn't a bad fight. I can't complain too much about this one. But yeah, Roy Nelson wins unanimous decision. Then in the light heavyweight division, we had Ovince StPreux versus Rafael Cavalcante Feijão, as some people like to call him. And this was, yeah, this one went 2 30-27s and 1 29-28. This one was pretty cut and dry as well. I mean, Ovince StPreux, I mean, he dominated every which way with Rafael Feijiao. And yeah, Ovin StPreux got a clean win here. No one's going to argue the decision. Ovin StPreux is definitely top 10 light heavyweight. That I say he's like 2 fights away from a title shot at this point. So yeah, Ovin StPreux, being a Strikeforce veteran, and Feijiao being a former Strikeforce champion in the light heavyweight division, this is a big win for OSP. Even though Feijiao is kind of on the downturn of his career right now, still a nice name win for OSP. And I say give him a big name, and then if he wins that, give him a #1 contender fight, and then after that, title shot. There's not a lot of leeway in this in this weight class. It's pretty much, we kind of know who the contenders are in this weight class, and I think OSP is at the bottom of that contendership list right now. His name's in that mix, but 1 or 2 wins against a couple big names, definitely gives him that title shot. And he has a good height and reach advantage over a lot of his opponents. And John Jones, I'm expecting him to win the belt back, and when he does, this could be an interesting matchup if Jones ends up fighting him. Or maybe Gustafsson gets back in the mix with another win, then Gustafsson fights OSP for a #1 contender fight. Or the winner of Evans and Shogun Hua could face OSP. So there's possibilities in this weight class. But yeah, OSP did a good job getting the unanimous decision win. Then in the flyweight division, we had Joseph Benavidez versus Zach Makovsky. Yeah, this one was, Zach got some good takedowns here. And it was 30-27 on one of the judges and 29-28 on the other 2. For Joseph Benavidez. I picked Joseph Benavidez to win by unanimous decision on this one. This one I got, perfect call. I figured, Zach might steal around with his wrestling, but then ultimately Joseph Benavidez would be able to pop up or stuff a bunch of takedowns and keep the fight standing or where he wanted it, wherever that may be, and outpoint him on strikes, and that's pretty much what happened in this fight. Joseph Benavidez did a good job. He's, a well-rounded fighter, and he's in an unfortunate situation where he's lost twice to the current champ. So if I were Joseph Benavidez, I would hope Henry Cejudo beats Demetrius Johnson for that flyweight belt, because now you open the door for him to go back into the title mix. And if Demetrius Johnson beats Henry Cejudo, then we got Joseph Benavidez here having to win a couple more and see where things are at that point. So yeah, Joseph Benavidez did a good job, got unanimous decision win in the flyweight division. Then in the light heavyweight division, we had Misha Cirkunov versus Alex Nicholson. Now this was a barn burner fight. It was submission, neck crank, and the jaw, I believe, was broken for Alex Nicholson. Alex Nicholson, he tried. He has, good training camp with, I believe, American Top Team. And Misha Cirkunov, he is pretty much being looked at as the next big thing. I mean, he's known as a grappler. He has great submission skills. But he showcased some decent stand-up in this fight. And I think with the right striking coaches, his striking will get that much better over time. And we'll see this guy become more of a complete fighter. And, he has a good size advantage over a lot of his opponents being over 6 feet. So I think Misha Cirkunov is definitely a guy to look out at. And, he has a good winning record right now. And Alex Nicholson was no slouch. And he was able to dominate him in the first round and finish him in the second round with his second round submission neck crank. Yeah, 1:28 into that second round. Then, to kick off the main card in the welterweight division, we had Mike Quicksand Pyle versus Sean Spencer. Yeah, now this one I picked Sean Spencer to win. Mike Pyle surprisingly won. It was late, 4 minutes and 25 seconds into the third round. Mike Pyle TKO elbows and knees. who would have saw this one coming? Wow. Mike Pyle did his thing. I had the first round for Sean Spencer, the second round for Mike Pyle. Then Mike Pyle built off that momentum in the second round and got to finish TKO. He had him up against a cage and was able to capitalize with his killer striking. Mike Pyle at 40 years old still has it. This wasn't, Sean Spencer's not an easy opponent. He's well-rounded. He's a veteran of the sport. That's why I picked Sean Spencer to win, and he was much younger. And despite, you know, being much younger, still had a lot of experience on him. So this was no slouch fight for Mike Pyle. This was a good win for Mike Pyle, and he got the finish. And he proved why he still belongs in the UFC in the welterweight division. I'm excited to see what's next for Mike Pyle. You know, is he going to be champion? You know, I mean, you know, that's, we can't, you know, that's not fair judgment to say something like that about Mike Pyle. But can he have exciting fights and maybe potentially fight for a belt if he keeps winning like this? Yeah, you know, only time will tell. But yeah, for here and now, I mean, Mike Pyle, I mean, there was some, in his last few matches, he had some losses that were kind of, you know, questionable, where he could have won those had it just been, you know, right place, right time sort of ordeal. Yeah, Mike Pyle, though, he showed that he can do it all still. And yeah, he found his range and his distance midway into this fight, and he capitalized, got the finish, TKO, elbows and knees. Yeah, it was the first clean elbow he landed in that third round that really rocked Sean Spencer. So that wraps up the post-fight show for UFC Fight Night, Hendricks versus Thompson. Stay tuned for my next episode, which is going to be Cowboy Alex Oliveira versus Cowboy Donald Cerrone, pre-fight show. So until then, see ya.